Let's make some royal icing. This is my preferred icing method or frosting method of sugar cookies and gingerbread men. You can find a million different recipes online, so it's really hard to find one that's going to work for you, whether it's your baking skills, the ingredients that you have. This is an extremely simple recipe. You don't need very many ingredients. It comes together quickly, and if you didn't make enough, it's really easy to make more, and if you made too much, it's not expensive to throw away if you have too much of it. So we're going to be making a royal icing that hardens, and I use this both on the gingerbread men and my Christmas tree cookies. I do have some Christmas tree cookies that are frosted with a buttercream frosting, but hard to get it to focus. But we only did that because we had leftover buttercream frosting from our oatmeal cream pies. Right now, I have a container of egg yolks that I'm saving for other baked goods, and I'll only keep it in the fridge for 2 to 3 days. So I have my duck eggs. You can use chicken eggs, of course. It'll just be a little bit different measurements. And the thing about royal icing is it's hard to be really precise. So the recipe that I'll give you on paper is not going to be exact because you kind of have to learn royal icing and figure out what's going to work with how you're going to be frosting your cookies. I'm putting my egg whites in one bowl and separating them. If your yolk were to break while you're doing this, make sure you get it over your yolks right away. I'd rather have extra egg white in my yolks because you can't have any egg yolk in your whites. There's multiple different flavors that you can do for your royal icing. My favorite is almond extract. If you have an almond allergy, then I suggest not doing it. I do have an almond sensitivity, but I'm still going to make some almond cookies because it is my favorite. And it's also not going to tint the color, whereas vanilla is a lot stronger color because it's darker. And it's going to make your icing a little bit darker, so you're not going to have a perfectly white frosting. The other option would be to do an orange flavor, which I love this for the keto cookies because keto cookies sometimes need something to mask the flavor a little bit.
We had a slight audio issue here, but I just wanted to tell you about powdered sugar. There's multiple different kinds out there, and for some reason, they do not all work the same. So you can get ones with tapioca starch and you can get ones with cornstarch. And I've found for this recipe specifically, the tapioca starch does not work well. It's a weird color and texture, and it's a lot harder to work with. So unfortunately, we're still using one that has cornstarch in it. And hopefully in the future, we can find a better replacement.
Not looked that far into it. Opening up my giant container of powdered sugar, I'm going to start with a heaping cup. And I'm going to add vanilla, just a dash. I'm going to add a dash of sea salt. You do not want to use large flakes of sea salt because that is going to mess with the texture of your frosting. And I have my whisk. Once your sugar is incorporated, it's still going to be chunky. We are going to add another whole cup of sugar. You can do this in a standing mixture, but you don't want bubbles. So you'd be tempted to turn it on high, and if you incorporate bubbles, you're going to mess up your frosting. So I'm just doing it by hand. With your royal icing, you're going to need multiple different textures depending on what you're going to do with it. My lazy preferred method of icing cookies is to dip them. You'll get your fingers a little bit messy, but it's quicker, but it is not as crisp and clean when it comes to lines. So when it comes to this cookie, I outlined it, and then I flooded it, and then I put a design on the top of it once it dried a little bit. This is going to get your nicest looking cookie. And when you're making gingerbread men and you want to give them specific faces and stuff, you're going to want a little bit of a thicker icing so that you can draw. And quite honestly, it's a little bit hard to get the perfect consistency. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to show you how you can dip it. So you just take your tree, you drop it in, and you pick it up, and you're going to want to scrape off some of the icing because there's a lot on there. Even a little bit more. This is not going to be a perfect cookie. This is the lazy method of doing it, but it is coating the cookie, and when you set it down, any extra is just going to fall off to the side. So this is an easy option. All right, the other method would be to pipe it on, and I'm going to put some white into a bag so we can use that for the gingerbread men, and then I'm going to make some green so that we can use that for our Christmas trees. You can make as many colors as you want, but the only shapes that we did today are Christmas trees and squares. I'm just putting a little in a bag for the gingerbread men because I'm going to do more faces on them, so I don't need a lot of frosting. A little goes a long way, and I'm just pulling it out all down to the bottom. You can massage out any bubbles because you don't want those in there.
Okay.
And then I'm going to pinch it, twist it, because we don't want it to dry out. I'm not using it right away. I'm going to fold it over and just set it off to the side for the moment. I'm not using a tip. If you have tips, you can use tips, but for this very fluid frosting or fluid icing, it doesn't need a tip, and you can use a Ziploc bag, but I prefer just buying a whole bunch of these bags on Amazon.
Where? At the resale.
I ran out of green food coloring, so we're going to be mixing our own up today, adding just a little bit of blue and some yellow. These are the Watkins Natural Food Colors. We're going to give that a good mix, see where we're at. This was 2 drops of blue and 3 drops of yellow. And we found with the natural food dyes, it's nice to add a splash of lemon. It will change the color just a little bit. This one, I still need a lot more color. So we're going to do 1 more blue, a couple more yellow. When it comes to the natural dyes, it's really hard to get very vibrant colors, and I'm sure that there's lots of tricks out there, but for now, this is it might look a little bit different on camera, but it's a vibrant green, and it does flatten out a little bit in color, and I would say that this is similar to what it was yesterday, even though I used the actual green dye yesterday. So we're going to stick with this color now. When you end up adding a lot of the dyes, sometimes it can make your mixture a little bit thinner. So I'm going to add a little bit more powdered sugar to this. This is a good dipping consistency, but it's not a great piping consistency. Also going to add a tiny bit of almond extract. It is extremely strong, so you only need a dash. I might have even put too much. You don't want to make your icing too thick because otherwise you're going to be struggling to get it out of the piping bag and you might even pop the piping bag. And if you're frosting a lot of cookies, your hands might even get a little bit sore. So we're not going to go too thick. I've got another piping bag. And the easiest way to fill your piping bag is use some kind of cup. Hi. Yeah. Are you going? Yeah. Okay. You want a cookie? I'm not supposed to offer you desserts right now.
Sure. That's in the morning at 5.
Do you want a frosted sugar cookie or an iced sugar cookie?
Frosted.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I take one for my dad.
Yes. I'm gonna make you be in the video now. Good. I love you. You also don't want to overfill your piping bag because then you're going to struggle to get it out and you may lose some out the top and that's really hard to deal with. So I didn't even scrape it all in there because I just like a little bit of frosting in my bag. This might even be too much. I can see just a little bit of air bubbles, so I'm just massaging them out a little bit. Again, twist. And you want to make sure that your cookies are nice and cooled. Mine are actually straight from the freezer. So I'm going to cut off a smaller hole first because I'm going to outline the trees, and then I'm going to cut a bigger hole to fill the trees. Might be a little small. We'll start with this. My icing is a great consistency because it's not falling off the tree at all and it's easy to work with. So I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. Fill the cookies. Ooh, I'm losing my icing. You can see I didn't add enough icing. So I'll show you what I did with this and why it turned out that way. I took it yesterday because I was like, oh, we don't need that much filling. And I just went like this. And then I took a knife and I spread it around, and that's how I ended up with all these divots. So if you want more perfect looking cookies, you want to fill it in just like this one. You can also see on the white cookie, ooh, I'm dripping my icing. You can see on the white one that I dipped, I didn't get enough icing in one spot, and now that spot is naked, which if you're adding more frosting, that's okay, but it won't result in a perfect looking cookie. So go ahead and fill them all the way that I did it on the first one. The most important tip that I have when it comes to icing your cookies with royal icing is that it has to sit out for a minimum of 24 hours, because otherwise you can even see this one sat out for about 18 hours and it's hard to make it focus. I'll get a picture. It's indented in there. So it has to be a minimum of 24 hours. You're going to have to sacrifice one and make sure that it's hard enough. And then you're going to want to stack them with parchment in between each cookie when you do, and store them in the freezer if you're not going to be eating them right away. Last year, I did not let them sit out for long enough, and I ruined almost all of my Christmas cookies. So that was really sad. And the more frosting that you use, so when you're flooding your cookies, these are going to probably take even closer to 30 hours for them to be set up nice and hard. And I also have not had a problem with the cookies dry out. They're still perfectly fine. Okay.